So I wanted to first introduce myself, and I want to make a little bit of a confession. I am a photographer, but we're amongst friends here, so I thought it would be okay to admit that to you. And my message is you don't have to be a head chef to make a great cake. So again, I'm going to start with a little bit of my history, my background. I started as an assistant, a lowly assistant, and moved into the dark realms of being a photographer. And then I got seduced by commercial fashion. And I guess it's been, the last 20 years, that's been what I've been involved in for these kinds of companies, both as photographer, as studio manager, and consultant to these kinds of great customers. And it was whilst I was helping these guys out that I came across a LinkedIn blog which really caught my eye. And it was for a product that is somewhat familiar. You might have seen it out there. It looked slightly different in those days. But essentially, the headline of the piece on LinkedIn was "Product Photography Without the Photographer." And I was very offended, as most photographers would be. It's a little bit of a step on our toes and a little bit of an ego-bashing thing when you have a piece of technology that claims to do a better job than you do, or a similar job. So I was really intrigued, and I emailed the company. I said, I got to come and see this thing. I think it's a video trick. They must have done something in editing, and very clever, these video people, right? So I thought about it over Christmas holiday. Do I really, it's coming out of my pocket. Do I really want to fly all the way to Haarlem? But I made the trip out to Haarlem, and that's the original Haarlem in the Netherlands, where our company's based. And I saw this thing, and it worked, and it blew my mind a little bit. I was still a little bit offended, but it really did a job. It was rudimentary. It was rough around the edges, but the software was there. It was functional, and you got a great image, and it was all cut out in seconds. And I thought, I know a lot of people who might like that. All of those people that I've been working with, they were struggling with this content production, and so I thought, I think we're onto something here. So anyway, fast forward quite a long way. I now work for that company and have done for quite a while. And we have a range of these lovely gadgets. And they're fantastic. They do a really good job. And as Maurits pointed out, it's some automation, it's some creativity. But it really comes down to the people. Who are the people operating this? What sort of sense do they have? Because machines are great, but machines cannot do creativity for you. Creativity is a human activity. It's not a machine activity. And so these are great, but you know what? You can still create really terrible pictures with them. You can just do it much faster. So my job in the company, which I'm really, really happy that I do, is to share some of my knowledge, share my experiences with our customers to make sure that they really feel comfortable, that they're able to express their creativity within that automation field. So we have a team. Everybody's got different experiences, but this team goes out and travels to all of our customers, and we basically spend 2 or 3 days with them, and we really go through their style guide. If they don't have a style guide, we help them to develop what their creativity should look like, what their particular brand wants to look like, and how we can best achieve that in a really efficient way using our technologies. So really, really proud of the team and what they do. And so we go and visit customers who look like this, busy studios. They got a lot of product to shoot. They really need to be able to just get it done. And, they just get on and they do it. And, with a little bit of help, they're able to really customize the look of what they do and really bring it to life. So again, we've got big facilities like this, but also, smaller facilities. They're just producing, a capsule collection here and there. So all different types of customers. And this is just a selection of some of our almost 900 customers we have worldwide now. And they're all, happy campers for the most part. And it's our job really to make sure that when we update new information, new techniques, new ways of learning, new ways of expressing ourselves photographically, and now with video, to be able to communicate that out. And that's what the training team are there for, to really communicate new ways of working. And also we learn from our customers too, There's a particular problem that we might come across in the studio, and then we implement that into the training. And so these are the kinds of people that we end up visiting, and it's usually a fun couple of days. So back to that cake. If you think about a cake, it's really about a good recipe, right? And the recipe for success, for a successful cake, obviously it's about the ingredients, and it's about how we combine them, right? So if we think about our style guide as the recipe, this is the brief, this is what we want to produce. The first thing we need to do is actually gather that information. What are the ingredients? What are the methods? How can we implement this? How do we get 50 dresses and have them all arranged in such a way that we can shoot them in the most efficient way? And that we're not just shooting blind, that we've got all the information that we need to name those products and make sure that they end up in the places that they should. So that's really the ingredients, our starting point. And then I guess we have the device, the baking method, if you will, or the mixing method. So how these are going to be allocated. I want my still lifes done. I need some on model. Oh, and don't forget the accessories. So all of that is really, how we're going to produce our content. And then I suppose lighting is the base of everything that we do photographically. So you could count that as your flour. This is the base of any good cake. And then I suppose the butter would be our framings, our presets. What are the shots that we need of that product? And so that's another ingredient that's important for a cake, is the butter. Our video presets, our framings. So these are some of the details that we can really dive into and get to grips with. And the aim of this really is to define that recipe, to define what framings that we need, right? So we need to decide what flavor of cake we're producing. I guess the sugar is our naming convention. That's super important. Yeah, you can shoot 20,000 things, but if they all have random names and you can't find them when you do a search, then you might as well not have shot them. So an important ingredient. It's important also to make sure that your brigade, the people who work in your studio, the people who are your chefs, make sure that they understand what the brief is. What is that recipe? Pin it up. Have it around your studio. Describe it in the best detail you can. So if something does go wrong, you can just refer back to the recipe and keep it on track. And then we want to mix it and bake it. So now that we have all the ingredients, we're going to bake that cake. So that's our shoot. So one last thing that we're missing now that we're in the US, I'm going to call it frosting. So the whole point of having that recipe is to be able to predict what we get, right? So predictable outcome. So if you follow this recipe, you know what you're going to get at the end, right? And so the icing on that cake, the frosting, is that predictable outcome is very easily post-processed as well, right? So we can put that into the software that we like to post-process in, and know exactly each time what we're going to get out of it, right? So it's all wonderful that if things come from different sources and different lighting, and Jack uses one camera setting and Maurits uses another camera setting, but once we're using a recipe, then we know that we can pass that through and just get that icing on the cake, that last final touch to the images in a very predictable manner. So, we don't need our head chef. Our brigade is perfectly capable of following that recipe and doing a good job. So, set by our talented, super creative head chef, but very easily, given the right training, given the right recipe, these guys can produce just as good a cake every single time. But so what happens if we want to produce lasagna instead of a cake? Say we want to do something different, something creative, and not just cut-out shots or e-commerce shots. We have our lasagna recipe. Well, we can tweak the recipe. We can change all those settings, our framings, our lighting, our background, all of the elements that make up that recipe. They're easily changed, and we can document that, put in the settings that we need, and pop out a completely different recipe. So, predictable outcome is one of the central goals, really, of selling online, because it's not only about how the website looks for your own sake, for your own creative indulgence. It's about making a consistent view for the customer, right? If the customer has had a beautiful lasagna, they had a wonderful dinner, and the next time they come back to that restaurant, they remembered that lasagna. Oh, you know what? Let's go there, guys. If that lasagna is different, it's really going to spoil the party, right? So somebody gets known for making an amazing lasagna, you're going to go back for it. And it's the same with our content. If customers know what they're looking at, if they understand the experience of shopping on your website, they know those flavors well, they're going to keep coming back. So if we present it in a consistent manner using the same recipe, then we can easily predict what's going to happen. Suppose you're all about the still life instead, and this is the flavor of your website, That's possible too. Now, if we shot these individually and each one looked absolutely perfect and, Jack lit it well and Maurits lit it differently, I'm not saying that their photographs would be poor. They'd probably be excellent photographs, but that's not the point. The point is to bring them together in a cohesive manner so that when you're looking at that, you understand the language of that store. You understand what's going to come out of it. And okay, I'm not now in deciding whether I like the picture of this coat better than that coat. You're just in shopping mode. Okay, I want the red one, That's the main goal, to have people look at your website, feel comfortable, so that they open their wallets. So, yeah. Head chefs are great. They define our style for us. But it's the brigade who are really going to shine for you. Given the right training, the right recipe, they're going to produce perfect content for you. So, have your star creative set the recipe. Train the team to follow the recipe to your standards. Have that recipe available and up in the studio so everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. And then change the recipe if you need to. That's all. Let's have a play.